Hi, and welcome back. We are back live at AWS reInvent in Las Vegas. This is the last full day of the conference. We have talked about tons of exciting topics, lots of AI, S3 launches. But let's jump into our next topic. So I'm Sydney Studi. I'm one of the hosts here, and let's just go around with introductions.
Yeah, I'm Jasmine Kyles. I'm another one of the hosts here. I'm a manager of product management here at AWS, and I'm excited to be back for day 4, and we're joined by some guests from Amazon Bedrock.
Hi, I'm Mani Kanuja, and I'm technical lead for generative AI specialist at AWS. So super excited to be here.
And I'm Ruha Marcus. I lead product management for knowledge bases as well as Amazon Lex.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, without further ado, let's jump into your launch. Can you tell us about it a bit?
Absolutely. We're incredibly excited to announce the general availability of knowledge bases for Amazon Bedrock, which allows companies to take their proprietary company data and augment that to foundation models. And this enables them to improve the quality and accuracy of responses that are grounded in your company data. And given that knowledge bases is part of the Amazon Bedrock serverless experience, we've abstracted away a lot of the complexity that's typically associated with building RAG applications, including vector databases and embeddings, and all the complexity is abstracted away, and getting started is extremely simple.
Yeah, so you mentioned an acronym, RAG. What is it?
Yeah, great question. So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And in order to understand what RAG really is, I'd like to give a quick analogy. So let's say you're a company and you've just hired an employee. It's their first day. And on their first day, you're not just going to lock them up in a conference room and start to give them assignments and ask them questions about it, right? You're going to onboard them. And in order to effectively onboard them, you have to give them access to tools and company information and data. And they leverage this then to be really effective at the job that you hired them to do. So similarly, foundation models have a vast amount of pre-trained knowledge, and retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, allows you to take your company knowledge and then use that as context then for foundation models to really understand your company better and then improve the quality and accuracy of responses.
That is an awesome analogy. That really just cleared it up. I know we were talking about this before, but that really crystal clear. So an employee comes in with pre-trained knowledge, but when you're actually training for a specific thing, love it. Okay, so how does it work though?
So as the name really suggests, right, it's retrieval. So you have this large corpus of knowledge, which is your enterprise data. And then based on the question that the user really wants to ask, you basically retrieve the information first, because really, if you just use the entire knowledge and try to give it to the model, it won't work, right? So what we do is you first, based on the query, retrieve the relevant data or the documents or the pieces where you have the answers, and then you augment that to the actual user question, and then feed it into the large language model so that it can give you better responses, accurate responses.
And one important thing to highlight, which is typically associated with the complexity of RAG systems that's important mentioning, is the data ingestion workflow. Because before you can start interacting with the RAG system, the data has to be in a particular format, and that's known as a vector format, right? And so what happens is you take your company data sources. This could be data in S3. It could be unstructured data, such as text files or CSVs or even PDFs. And that data is then split up into something known as chunks. And chunks are basically segments of that document information that is then fed into something known as an embeddings model. And an embeddings model takes your data and turns it into vectors. And that sounds like a lot of complexity, and in many cases it is, but it's important to highlight because the most powerful thing about these retrieval systems is that it can do semantic-based search and truly understand questions at a deeper level beyond keyword systems, because vectors encode a lot of semantic information, such as relationships between words and relationships within the document. So when you're asking questions, you can leverage this deeper understanding of information that's encoded into the data. And if you don't know what that is, it's actually okay, because that's why knowledge bases completely takes away all that complexity of data ingestion and worrying about what embeddings are or vectors and all the orchestration that's needed to interact with these systems. And yeah, it's I think one of the great parts about what we've built is not having to be an expert in all of these nuanced domains.
Yeah, so it sounds like knowledge bases helps really bring it all together and help someone as they're looking to build out these complex systems, right? I'm thinking about, you just dropped all of this new vocabulary on me, right? I'm like, chunks, that's not how I use the word chunks, right? So you have to be in that mindset of moving your data from where you need it to be to get it into this vector, but then you're learning this new vocabulary as well as you're learning how to interact with the technology. So tell me, what could be some of the challenges of implementing RAG?
So if you really think about it, just the data ingestion workflow, which Ruhab just mentioned, so you first have to figure out what file formats you want and your data source, and then you have to pre-process those documents, get the text out of it, and then select your chunking strategy. I know it's another term, but that's what you have to really do. So select your chunking strategy to how many tokens you want the document to split into, because when you're feeding those chunks or pieces of the documents into the embeddings model, you have that's the main reason to do it, because the embeddings model cannot take like infinite input size. So that's why you have to be careful about that. And it also depends on how you want to give the response back to the large language model. So you have to decide those, and then you have to decide what embeddings model you want to use, and then the vector DB itself.
Yeah.
So there's so many things. And then how you retrieve the data out of the vector DB. And imagine implementing all of that on your own is really challenging.
Right, so how can Bedrock help with this, right? I'm making all of these challenging decisions. I need to get, to the end result. How can Bedrock help me?
So now what we have done with Bedrock is, rather than implementing all of that, it's more about choices. So you have data in S3, and then we will do all the pre-processing on that data. And then for the chunking, you just have to select your chunking strategy. It can be fixed chunking, or maybe your documents are already chunked and you want no chunking. So we provide those options to you. And you might say, you know what, I don't care, just give me the default option that I should use. So we provide that as well. Then we provide the embeddings model. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I have to invoke the embeddings model, what will happen? No, we just have Titan embeddings model, which is actually can work for 25 languages and can take 8K of input size. When I say 8K, it's 8,000 tokens. And then feed it into your vector DB. And whenever these new documents are coming, you press the sync button. It will incrementally update your vector database. So it takes away all of that heavy lifting to choices rather than implementing. And then we had 2 more announcements that we did yesterday and the day before, right, in the past 2 days, to how we can improve the retrieval process as well. So this was about data ingestion, but what about the retrieval, right? So for the retrieval part, also you have to have whenever a user is asking a query, you have to create the embeddings using the same model, right? And then you retrieve the documents. So for that, we really launched the Retrieve API. So now when a user asks the question, all you have to do is call the Retrieve API to get the relevant documents, and then you see a score as well. So you can decide, right, how many number of results you want, how many pieces of document you want, and then you have the flexibility of augmenting it with your user query and feed into literally any LLM provided by Amazon Bedrock, or maybe your custom models, right?
Yeah, and to quickly summarize, this workflow is very complex if you're building it on your own. And in knowledge bases, we guide users through that entire step-by-step process and enable, just a really fast development process to have a RAG application ready to use, right? In the matter of minutes, you can have this up and running. But if you prefer the flexibility and want to interact with, knowledge bases programmatically, we have a full suite of APIs to allow developers choice in terms of how they build this using knowledge knowledge bases.
That's awesome. That sounds like a big change and like such a step forward in what customers are able to do quickly with Amazon Bedrock. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So can we talk more about the term embeddings? Like how do those work? What is it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the term embeddings is really about taking words and creating that into a numerical representation. And these embedding models is more than just turning words into numbers, because what's happening is, we mentioned earlier, is really understanding relationships in the words, right? And how they relate to one another. Because humans are really great at understanding through dialogue, but machines really need a numerical format to do something interesting with it. Because if you imagine, when you have this data stored in numbers, then you're able to run mathematical operations such as similarity, right? To look at how do words relate to one another, and is a dog closer to a puppy? Is the analogy that Swami used, right? And that distance between those words can be computed through numbers, right? And so this concept of embeddings is really just that, right? It's taking words and coding into a numerical representation that has a lot of meaning instrumented in it, and then running operations such as search and looking at distance between vectors to answer a user's question.
Got it. That really clears it up too, I think. That tells me a little bit more. Let's see. So chat was going crazy about, is
Yeah.
AWS OnAir real? And Tabitha said she was going to walk behind and wave. So I'm pretty sure she just did. We are real. We are live.
Very
and we
real.
see some of your questions, and we'll try to get to them at the end. We want to make sure that we talk about this launch in its entirety. So yeah, let's keep going.
So tell us some common use cases for RAG.
So, okay. So when we are talking about RAG, what we are doing is we are augmenting the knowledge, right? And why do we need to do that is because these foundation models, they are trained on the data set, which is up to a certain point in time, right? So the one thing that you want to do is you don't want any hallucinations. And if you ask any recent question, the models might not be able to answer, right? Or they might just try to be very intelligent and oversmart, and then they might give you a hallucinated response. That's what we call as hallucination, where model will give you a response, but that might be incorrect. So one of the use cases is to augment that knowledge so that to avoid hallucination and get improved responses. The other one is I want the model to channel all its intelligence and just to focus on my enterprise data. So building like context-based chatbot, Q&A. So those are some of the use cases. Personalized search. You can literally build your recommendation engine, include your recommendation engine as well, based on the user preferences, previous search history, and so on. And also, I think, and also real-time text summarization, actually, because imagine if you have the whole book and you want to summarize that. So RAG can help you where I might just want to summarize a chapter or a particular section, right? So you can do that also. So there's so many use cases for RAG.
Yeah, when you think about how a company plans to leverage generative AI, we truly think that retrieval augmented generation will be one of the most commonly adopted forms of generative AI. And we can't wait to see what everyone builds using knowledge bases.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. And so yesterday we talked a little bit about Bedrock agents. I believe I said that right. How does knowledge base work with Bedrock agents?
Yeah, so one really easy way to think about this is when you're using a knowledge base, you're really accessing information that is relatively static, or information that you don't expect to change on a real-time basis. So this includes company policies or frequently asked questions. Those things aren't changing on the second, right? But in many cases, you have the need to access data, whether it's in databases or it's through an API, and that information does change real time. And agents for Amazon Bedrock allows you to interact with systems that are more dynamic in nature, or tools where information is changing more real time. And that is really the key part of agents, is orchestrating and interacting with these real-time systems, but they can also be coupled with knowledge bases that are fetching information that is a little bit more static in nature.
Yeah. So we have a lot of folks going. They are going crazy in the chat. Your team is doing a great job answering questions, but we want to talk about some of this stuff, live while we can. So
Let's do it.
let's re-summarize what is knowledge bases, just for folks who are just now joining us.
Absolutely. So knowledge bases for Amazon Bedrock allows you to take your external company data and use that as context for a foundational model to ground its answers on your company context, ultimately improving the quality and accuracy of a response.
Got it. And so we got some nitty-gritty questions down in here.
Oh, we love those. Let's hear them.
All right. So someone says, is there guidance on updating the ingested embeddings in the DB? For example, as my source KB changes over time, can I process deltas in, or do I need to reprocess all the docs?
Yeah, so you can process deltas in. That's like the fully managed experience that we are offering with knowledge bases. So for example, whenever you have new documents on Amazon S3, which is your data source, you just have to either call the ingestion job, or on the console, you just have to press a sync button, and it will automatically see the new documents, and then it will create the embeddings and ingest into the vector database.
Awesome.
Yeah, imagine doing that on your own, right? And that's what we don't want people to worry about.
Right. You gotta, in some way, remove a little bit of the complexity, bring ease of use so that people can scale quickly and be able to deliver, seamless experiences.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I thought this question was really good because I'm new to AI myself. I'm always trying to learn and level up my own knowledge. And so this question hits close to home for me. Is there I lost it. Oh, no. I think it was about, is there a standard scoring system for RAG performance?
So when we are talking about RAG performance, because you are generating the responses, right? So it's more about, are we talking about evaluating the responses? So there are certain open source tools that you can use. And another thing about knowledge bases integration and the APIs that I was talking about earlier, you can integrate with those open source tools like LangChain, and you can even use like the model evaluation or the evaluators provided by Llama Index. So there is a lot that you can do to evaluate the responses.
Yeah, there's, when it comes to evaluation, there's really the quantitative evaluation, and then there's the qualitative. And Manny touched a little bit on the quantitative, but I think it's also important with these systems, especially ones that are operating on large documents and company-specific context, to introduce that, human-based evaluation to understand, how helpful were these responses. And, there's oftentimes nothing better than you actually evaluating that with the human context. So both are needed and are important.
Yeah. So this is awesome. I love sharing this stage with you all because I'm learning so much, and it makes me want to dive more into the technology. But for folks who are watching and who are going to watch this later on demand, how can they get access to knowledge bases?
Yeah, knowledge bases is generally available, so it's accessible to everyone who is an AWS customer. Go directly to the Amazon Bedrock console, and you'll see an option for knowledge bases. Or as I mentioned, we have a suite of APIs in the knowledge base SDK, which you can access programmatically. So yeah, we can't wait to see what you all build using knowledge bases.
So I think it would be safe to say you just need an AWS account.
Yes.
Okay.
That's step one. If you don't have an AWS account, go get one.
Yeah.
Yes, sign up. We got free tier stuff. I don't know if that applies to this case, but sign up for an AWS account and we can get started.
Yeah.
So to summarize before we wrap up this session, if there was one key takeaway that you would want to share with the audience, what would it be about your launch?
So about the launch, I really want the audience to focus on actually three important things. One is the whole data ingestion workflow, which is fully automated, fully managed. The second is the retrieval APIs. I think I touched based on one of them, where you can retrieve the relevant documents automatically, just calling the API. And the third is retrieve and generate, where you just have a user query. The ingestion is automatic, and then you select the model, and you get the response. Everything else, whatever we talked about, all the complexity is taken care of. So.
Yeah.
That's why I would have like 3 takeaways.
You wanna add something?
No, I mean, that was such great. I mean, what can I say now? But if I were to say something, I would just index on the ease of use of how simple it is to get started. And we have taken away all of the complexity and guide you through that process end to end. And you truly can have a fully functioning, retrieval augmented generated system ready in minutes, right? And interact and ask questions directly in our test console, directly in knowledge bases. So it's really just the ease of use that I think is the most powerful.
Yeah.
Is key.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Manny. I really appreciated having you here. Sydney, thanks for co-hosting with me. That is all the time we have for this segment. So we'll be back with more AWS On Air after this.